Story 1. Being an adult does not automatically make someone mature. Many adults still act like children, even in positions of power. Politicians treat debates as if they are on a school playground. Story 2. There is no order to anything. Everything happens because someone somewhere felt like it. No one knows anything, and everyone is just improvising. Story 3. Everything is for profit. Revenue must increase every quarter. If there is no good reason, one will be forced on you. It is always someone putting their hand in your pocket. Took me too long to reassess everything with that in mind. Take streaming, for example. Soon we will have to pay a yearly fee to have a TV to stream or for whatever reason. It is everything. There is no end in sight, and it is not sustainable. Story 4. No one cares. No one is coming to help. You can scream into the void of every agency when you need help, but in the end, you are completely disposable. Story 5. As a millennial born in the early 1990s, I realized that our parents and other adults were just as lost as we were but had more access to the things that made them feel like adults than we do. A good majority of them only had us out of what they felt was necessity, not because they wanted to on their own. This is evident in how they essentially handed over this country and its institutions to blatant criminals instead of fighting for the future of us. Their children and their grandchildren, they never truly cared about us. We were supposed to be trophies or milestones of societal success for them. Look at me. I have kids. We are more progressive, have better critical thinking skills, and overall more well-rounded views of the world than they do. Yet we suffer because of their ignorance toward us and everything around them, as well as their unwillingness to pass the baton to us or any generation that follows. Story 6. No one is completely an adult mentally. You will see childlike behavior in everyone. We live in a world filled with immature adults. Story 7. When I was little, I thought the police could do whatever they wanted. Then I grew older and realized they could not. Then I grew even older and realized they could. Story 8. The most shocking thing to me is how many people think Donald Trump is a good businessman, believe he is ethical, and consider him a true Christian. It still amazes me to think about it. Story 9. Everything is a lie and a fabricated reality. The whole idea of working hard to be successful is capitalism-driven theater that supports the very rich and denies all others any freedom. Story 10. After Donald Trump was elected, I realized I was surrounded by people who were much less informed than I had thought. Even more so after he encouraged insurrection with the phrase, "Hang Mike Pence." That should have been a capital offense. But no, he is president again. What the actual heck? Story 11. How little critical thinking actually goes on out here. As a child, we trust adults. As an adult, I see that most adults are unwise. Story 12. The sheer scope, power, deceit, and effectiveness of American propaganda. We started as a nation because of wealthy white men who did not want to pay their taxes. 250 years later, we are controlled by wealthy white men who do not want to pay their taxes. Story 13. How insincere everyone is because it is easier than being themselves socially. Many people are just going through the motions and pressuring others to do the same. Story 14. I took my time. Basically, nothing matters unless you make it matter. Therefore, choose what matters to you and nurture it. We will all be 6 feet under soon enough. Story 15. I think I was most shocked to learn that the systems we put in place are not for the benefit of the population. It was learned fairly early, but I still grew up thinking that we, as a society, cared about people and the future of humanity. Story 16. Noam Chomsky predicted this situation in the 1990s, and nothing changed. Edward Snowden gave up a happy life to reveal that America is more interested in spying on its own citizens than on any other part of the world, and nothing changed. Luigi Mangione is serving a life sentence to draw attention to the fact that health insurance as a for-profit industry is harming people, and nothing changed. In my younger days, I protested a lot, but nothing changed. The story behind the housing bubble collapse, caused by subprime lending, was the worst realization of all. I believe one person served a short term in prison, while countless Americans lost their pensions and homes. I apologize for being direct, but these are things that shocked me. Story 17. How kids can act like a jerk to you, but you are not allowed to defend yourself because they are just a kid. Story 18, two things. 1. Many people are just winging it, relying on trial and error. 2. Many people are confidently uninformed. Story 19. The big lie is that there are no adults. I am 49 and still look for an adult when problems arise. We are all a bunch of eager children with adult-sized toys. Story 20. How many adults who criticize me about trying drugs, which I never did, actually used the worst drugs available casually as teenagers? Story 21. Everyone is just a person. Doctors, lawyers, and engineers are all equally likely to be unskilled and perform poorly at their jobs. Story 22. Most adults have very little knowledge about the world around them. For example, they cannot explain what the summer solstice is or why plants release oxygen. Story 23. Way more people are desperate than I initially thought. Recently single after being in a relationship for 6 years. In this year alone, I have had a cougar invite me to be a third. A truck driver at work who is much older than me asked me to hook up. Multiple old friends reach out and ask if I am into men, and for different exes try to reestablish connections. I do not know what is going on. It feels like I am in a bad sitcom, and I have to imagine it is because, for a lot of people, life is starting to get to the point where hobbies are too expensive and sex is free. Story 24. There are many adults who believe that not enough children are going hungry, that too many of them are receiving medical care, and that more should be homeless. Story 25. There will always be people who see you as inexperienced because of your age. This perception gradually changes after you become a parent and remains steady until your children are adults. Hopefully, this extends with grandchildren. However, eventually, you may notice more people dismissing and disregarding you as clueless or irrelevant based on your age. Story 26. How doctors are people too. I was training as an emergency medical technician in an emergency department and was shocked that the male doctors were arguing over who got to treat an attractive patient. Story 27. Nobody knows what they are doing. They are all improvising based on pretense and deception. Worse still, many succeed through manipulation and backstabbing. Story 28. Of all the billions and trillions of events that occur daily, only a small percentage is covered by the media and news channels and becomes the mainstream way of thinking. Statistically speaking, even if you do not believe in media bias, you have to wonder how they choose the topics to discuss out of all the millions of events that happen every day. And why? I was aware of media bias, but it was not until I really thought about it this way that it truly struck me. Story 29. Being empathetic is often considered a weakness. My colleague died, and I was crying a lot because we were good friends. I was called unprofessional and sent to human resources. Story 30. The systemic racism I encountered is supported by most white people who recognize their privilege and would rather preserve that privilege than allow equity. Story 31. Most people seem to wake up and decide they are going to spend the entire day doing everything in their power to make everyone else miserable. Attack others, cause harm, step on others, and abuse people. They do everything they can to destroy others because they think it is funny, believing they are good, God-loving, mature, positive, happy, perfect, and awesome people while doing it. When I was a child, I thought adults were awesome people who had their lives together. People got good jobs, bought houses, and gathered for barbecues on the weekends. I understood that not everyone got along, but I did not realize how hateful, violent, and vicious people were to each other on a daily basis for no reason, even to complete strangers. They go out of their way to do it for no reason. Story 32. There is no dream. Even if you find fame and fortune and spend a lot of time doing what you always wanted to do, the realities of how your dream industry operates will present significant problems for you. This is why I always find joy in small things, not big ideas of making it or success. That is not what I want anymore. Story 33. How blindly grateful people can be for getting absolutely mistreated by the system they live and work in. Also, how badly people who have it all can ruin themselves once they are independent. For example, Diddy, Epstein, and many others. Essentially, how luck can save you until it cannot, and how unevenly luck is distributed in organized society. Story 34. You know that women never really faint, and that villains always blink their eyes. You know children are the only ones who blush, and that life is just to die. Story 35. One specific thing that really shocked me. When I was taught in school that in order to be taken seriously when speaking in public or to a crowd, you had to speak clearly and directly and not ramble into tangents. Well, that turned out to be a lie. The current president of the United States disproved that whole notion starting 10 years ago. Story 36. There are many more people in high-paying positions and positions of power who have no business being there. Story 37. When my parents are people and they are doing their best. I told my brothers that our dad is emotionally immature and does not know how to deal with things that make him uncomfortable. Both of them agreed. I am a bit ashamed it took me so long to truly realize that. Our parents are good people and not at all worth going zero contact, as some online communities suggest, but they are people. Story 38. The amount of corruption and dishonest dealing is appalling, and nobody seems to have the ability to do anything about it. This is probably because the people who could act are involved themselves and do not want any attention drawn to their actions. If you want to avoid being exploited, you need to learn quickly and start protecting yourself. However, they will target you because they do not want any competition. Story 39. You can share your struggles, be vulnerable, take accountability, be honest, and ask for help without others judging you. But do it anyway. It is for you, not them. Story 40. Trying to eat healthy food, drink enough water, avoid smoking, brush frequently, and get a little exercise really makes a huge difference. Many people my age who have not kept up look much older and have far more health problems than those who have. A lot of my graduating class looks unhealthy, are sick, some have even passed away. I am from the class of 2003. Story 41. In most families, the mother has a full-time job and does 80 to 100% of the housework and childcare. Story 42. Very few people actually care about your well-being, sometimes not even your parents. Also, many more people die than you realize is possible. My father was the youngest of 8 and had me when he was 35. I attended many more funerals than weddings. Story 43. The thing that affected me the most was when, after September 11th, it became clear that most people do not listen in history class. Story 44. How expensive healthcare and hospital bills are in the United States. I had no idea that people have to pay hospital bills when they give birth, for example. It blew my mind. You spend 9 months growing a baby inside you and then you have to pay to give birth. Story 45. Most people are not very knowledgeable. I thought it was just inexperienced young people for the longest time, but the vast majority of adults have limited literacy, let alone functionality or self-awareness. Story 46. How low the average reading level is. In nursing school, I was told that all health education for adults is delivered at a maximum of 6th grade complexity. Story 47. Here is a specific answer about how mortgages work. I did not have a strong understanding until I got closer to buying a place. It was not something I thought about during my college years. You mean to tell me I pay this much for a fixed period, and then suddenly on renewal my rate could increase? And I have no control over how interest rates change. Story 48. We have many experts with world-class educations who are the most capable people in the world to make decisions concerning the welfare of millions of people, yet we do not put them in charge. In fact, people in power vilify them. Also, those who say the world is not fair are only half right. The world is not fair because we choose not to make it fair. Story 49. Suddenly no one cares if you are hungry or cold. They will just watch you starve while sleeping on the ground. Story 50. You will spend significantly more time with coworkers than with family, yet some coworkers will still go out of their way to betray you. Story 51. I became a co-owner in a 14-apartment building a couple of years ago, and I am baffled at how overwhelmingly passive most people are. I have been looking into the accounting of our building manager, and it is a total mess. I am talking about thousands of dollars misplaced or forgotten. I have been raising a huge concern about it, and other co-owners do not react at all. It has been very eye-opening. Most people will accept being cheated instead of going through the hassle needed to defend their own rights and interests, and I find that pretty discouraging. Story 52. It's just like being back at school. Same cliques, same gossip, and all the same nonsense and dramas, but with different characters. I was too old for this at 16, so imagine how I feel now that I'm in my 50s. I just sit back and laugh inwardly at it all. Story 53. Everyone just makes things up and exaggerates continuously. This is where every religion originates, and it explains why people have no clear understanding of what is truly happening in politics. People create little stories for themselves and say, "Yes, that's how it is." I have met many people who repeat a false reality aloud and alter facts. Admitting that they do not know something seems to be their greatest fear. Story 54. Growing up, I was always told that being an adult is all about responsibility. However, now that I am in my late 20s, I have realized that most adults are not responsible and do not take accountability for their actions. Story 55. Hard work doesn't always pay off, but flattering others will help you advance quickly. I cannot understand a grown man wanting or accepting another grown man flattering him. Story 56. Many people need to go back to kindergarten. Keep your hands to yourself. Do not take things that do not belong to you. Scented crayons are not flavored. Story 57. Most people lack critical thinking and analytical skills, including some educated individuals. Story 58. The amount of hypocrisy. I have gradually come to see why, to some extent, there is a reason for people to be encouraged to do one thing while many actually do the opposite. Even so, sheesh. Story 59. I am a sociologist, and I can say the way they can convince you or tire you to believe what the majority thinks is the best way is not true. It is the opposite. Story 60. As a smart kid who grew up upper middle class and ambitious, I find it shocking that many people are okay with working fast food jobs for the rest of their lives, living in poverty, and having a new baby every 2 years without actively striving for success or a better life. People accept not obtaining their general educational development certificates, having more children than they can afford, and not making plans for the future. Often, this lifestyle reflects personal choices rather than a lack of money or resources. Story 61. Older adults are like experienced children. They may have tantrums and meltdowns over simple matters, do not sleep well, and often wake up very early. Many things are designed for their comfort and convenience. They can be disconnected from current events and unsure how things work. Being rude and causing a fuss is sometimes their way of getting what they need. They expect others to support and assist them. Frequent illness, trips, falls, and tiredness are common. Story 62. For everything you want to buy, you have to work. When you work, you pay taxes. When you buy your house, you still have to pay taxes. When you are old and have worked all your life, even if your house is paid off when you die, your children will still have to pay taxes to inherit it. The taxes are so high that they may have to sell the house to pay the taxes. What a crazy world. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.